I never imagined that moving into Pinehurst Estates would turn into an all-out standoff with the neighborhood's most notorious busybody, Deborah Wilkins, or, as everyone whispered behind her back, the HOA Karen. From the moment I signed the closing papers on my modest ranch-style house, she had me in her sights, though I didn't realize it at the time. The problem started about 3 months after I settled in. I was working from home when someone started pounding on my front door. When I opened it, there she was, Deborah, clipboard tucked under her arm, her perfectly structured bob not daring to move out of place. She wore a navy blazer with gold buttons, the unofficial uniform of self-appointed authority. "Mr. Reynolds," she greeted me with a smile so forced it barely qualified as polite. "I'm Deborah Wilkins, president of the Pinehurst Estates Homeowners Association. I'm here to address several violations on your property." She stressed the word like I'd committed serious crimes instead of whatever imaginary infractions she'd invented. I kept my voice calm. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Wilkins. What violations?" "I've been following everything in the welcome packet." She flipped dramatically through her clipboard. "Your mailbox is the wrong shade of forest green. It should be Pinehurst Green number 543 not. Whatever this is." She waved at my completely normal mailbox. "Your trash bins were visible from the street for more than 6 hours after pickup last Thursday. And your front flower beds need urgent correction. Hydrangeas are not on the approved plant list." I wanted to laugh, but managed to keep a straight face. I'll recheck the mailbox color. As for the garbage bins, I was at a work conference, and my neighbor brought them in later, and the hydrangeas were here when I bought the place. Her eyes narrowed. "The previous owners were granted a temporary exemption. It expired when the property changed hands. You have 14 days to replace them with approved vegetation. I'll email you the violation notices." She turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and your house trim needs repainting. It's looking shabby." My trim had been freshly painted before I moved in, but I simply said, "I'll review the notices," already sensing this was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, the violation letters kept coming, each more ridiculous than the last. My bird feeder was attracting non-native species. My garden hose was improperly stored even though it sat neatly on a reel. My welcome mat was labeled excessively worn, despite being brand new. Every notice came with threats of fines and a list of absurd instructions. Neighbors eventually warned me about Deborah's pattern. She harassed new homeowners to see how much control she could get away with. She'd driven out at least 3 families in the past 2 years. "She treats this neighborhood like her own kingdom," my neighbor Tom muttered. "The rest of the board is too scared to confront her." I decided to fight back with malicious compliance. At the next HOA meeting, I arrived prepared. I presented photo evidence proving I had met every one of her outrageous demands. As I calmly went through each item, several homeowners nodded in agreement. Deborah's jaw tightened with every word. "And according to the association bylaws," I finished, "half of these so-called violations aren't written anywhere. I'd be happy to help update the documentation for clarity." A ripple of agreement spread through the room. Deborah's grip tightened on her gavel. "We'll take your comments under advisement," she managed, seething. One look at her expression told me I had just made a lifelong enemy. A week later, I came home to find an emergency remediation notice taped to my door. According to the document, my roof had been declared structurally unsafe during a routine inspection, and the HOA had already scheduled immediate repairs at my expense. Ridiculous. My home inspection before closing showed the roof was in excellent condition with at least a decade of life left. I called the roofing company listed on the notice, but they said they had no record of any appointment at my address. After the roofing incident, I decided enough was enough. I installed a small security camera facing my porch and driveway, just in case Deborah tried something else. Only 2 days later, while I was at work, my phone pinged with a motion alert. When I opened the live feed, my jaw dropped. A battered pickup truck pulled into my driveway, the words "Valley Contracting" sloppily hand-painted on the door. 3 men in mismatched work clothes climbed out and began unloading ladders and tools. And there, commanding them like a drill sergeant, stood Deborah. I immediately called the police and sped home. By the time I arrived, the men had already torn several rows of perfectly good shingles off my roof. Deborah stood proudly in the driveway, her smug smile evaporating the moment she saw me pull up alongside the arriving police cruiser. "What is going on here?" I demanded. "Who authorized work on my house? Thanks for watching. If you have your own HOA story, share it in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this." Deborah straightened her blazer, trying to act all high and mighty. As stated in the notice, she announced, "The HOA has emergency authority to resolve structural issues." She pointed at the 2 guys on my lawn. "These gentlemen are preventing your dangerous roof from collapsing." Sergeant Rodriguez, the police officer I'd called, wasn't buying it. He raised an eyebrow. "Mum, do you have documentation? A board approval?" "Of course," she huffed, pulling a crumpled paper from her tote bag. "This is the emergency authorization, signed by me as board president." I took a look. "This only has your signature. HOA bylaws require at least 3 signatures for emergency action. Oh, and by the way, I've already called 3 roofing companies. None of them ever did an inspection here." The so-called contractors started getting nervous, whispering to each other and packing up their tools. Officer Rodriguez walked over to them. "Gentlemen, I need to see your IDs and business licenses." Spoiler alert, they didn't have any licenses. After running their IDs, the officer came back looking grim. "These men are not licensed contractors," he said, "and one of them has an outstanding warrant for construction fraud." Deborah's face went completely white. "But I was assured they were reputable. My cousin said they were offering a special rate," she stammered. "Your cousin," I repeated, just completely stunned at this point. Officer Rodriguez started taking notes. "So, Mum, did you authorize work on this property without permits, using unlicensed workers, and without the homeowner's consent?" "It was for the good of the neighborhood," she snapped, her voice cracking. "Reynolds has been undermining my authority since day one. Someone has to maintain standards." That's when I pulled out my phone and showed the officer my security footage. Crystal clear video of Deborah directing the guys, pointing at my roof, and even paying them in cash. "I'd like to press charges," I said calmly, "and I'll be alerting the rest of the HOA board immediately." As Rodriguez escorted her to his cruiser, Deborah's eyes locked onto mine. "You have no idea who you're dealing with," she hissed. "I've run this neighborhood for 15 years. Well, she wouldn't be running it for much longer. The emergency HOA board meeting the next night was insane. The room was packed. One by one, my neighbors stood up, sharing their own horror stories of Deborah's bullying and intimidation. It turned out I wasn't the only one. Then came the bombshell, the audit results. Not only had she illegally hired her cousin's unlicensed friends with HOA funds, but she'd been siphoning money from the association for years, hiding her personal expenses under fake community improvement projects. The district attorney moved fast. Deborah was charged with attempted fraud, misappropriation of funds, and criminal conspiracy. At the bail hearing, the judge set her bail at $50,000. Her face was a mask of disbelief. "But I've served this community faithfully for years," she cried out as the bailiff approached with handcuffs. "This is all a misunderstanding." The judge wasn't having it. After reviewing her long history of harassment, he slapped her with a restraining order. She had to stay 100 feet away from me and my property. As they led her away, the reality finally seemed to crash down on her. Her once perfect hair was a mess, her expensive blazer was wrinkled, and every last bit of her power was gone. She turned back to the courtroom, probably hoping for some support, some sympathy. But not a single neighbor stood up for her. Not one. The reign of the HOA tyrant was finally over. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe for more stories like this.